What's up everyone, this is Bacon and this is another Chaos Zero Nightmare video. As you can see, I unlocked level 10 of Trust with one of my characters, with Mika. You can see here, just a quick little side tangent before I get into the actual content of the video. Once you get 10, you do get the ability to change your background, and also gives you a little soundtrack too, which is cool. This is hers, but you can see there's other ones here, just to kind of give you a sample. Some a little more little gooner than others, and then some you got some male goonery going on, which is always fun. You know, got to get some diversity in there. But there you go, those are all the ones you can unlock once you get 10 affinity with these heroes. But yeah, with how much I talk about Rinoa, I don't have her at 10. I have Mika because I started getting her built out faster and sooner, so I just kind of full sent with her. But today I want to talk about how I feel about this game. It's been about a week now, and I want to talk about some things that I think could be improved on, but also things that I think the game does really well. This is kind of my week review, because I think at first, when the first 2 days, your review will probably look different than a week later or a month later. And I want to kind of talk about how I feel about this game now that I've been playing it for a good amount of time. To be honest, I'm still very addicted to this game. I've been playing it probably too much every single day, but I've really enjoyed it. Every day it's been fun. I look forward to the 2 p.m. for me kind of reset so I can do some of the missions and grinds and stuff and get a little more resources again. But this game's been a blast. Overall, just the fun factor has been super high for me. I really like just the play style of the game, the kind of creativity you can bring into it, which is ironic coming from me because I'm doing a build that's very common, I think, with Rinoa. But I'm looking forward to kind of building out other characters in the future too. And I think as you get in later in the game, there is more incentive to have more characters and comps, which is cool. But I want to talk about a few things that I think the game does really well, and then kind of talk about some things that I think could be improved upon or bettered for future content in this game. Now, the first thing I want to touch on is the diversity of playstyles that are in this game. You really have like so many different ways you can play the game. Not only do you have different characters that are built very differently, within each of those characters, you have different cards, different epiphanies that you can really just play differently. And then you can also get the neutral cards to throw in there. And then on top of that, you have different kind of comps you can build amongst your 3 heroes, which I think is a great thing. I think it adds a lot of just, you know, uniqueness to everyone's comp. And I think because a lot of these are very viable, you can clear a lot of things, at least early on. We don't really know how this is going to look in a few weeks or even a month when you're late game. But I think early on, it seems like you can do a lot with a lot of these characters, which I think is fun. I think that's a great design for a game. No one wants to play a game where you have a single hero who is just SSS tier, absolute meta. You need this hero to do anything. Kind of looking at you, Etheria Restart with Lily. Early on, if you didn't have Lily in that game, it just kind of stunk. And this, it doesn't feel that way personally. I think regardless of who you kind of focus on, as long as you're enjoying it, you're going to have fun. So I think that's a really great pro to this game. Next thing I want to touch on is the story and the kind of lore of the game. I think overall, the lore and story is fine. I like that it's a darker kind of tone to it. Honestly, I haven't paid as much attention to it as I probably should, but I think the parts that I have paid attention to have been really interesting. I don't think it's like this insane storyline that like you need to play this game for the story, but I think for those who do enjoy that, it is interesting and entertaining. One thing I want to touch on too, if we go ahead and look at Arc City and then go to the Epiphany Center, Trauma Code. Trauma Code is kind of a side mode where you can basically learn more about these characters by doing different missions, and it goes into their history of their trauma, which gives them a background. For Rinoa, you do have to buy a key for a very cheap amount using in-game resources, and you can basically do all this, get a lot of resources from clearing these, and then you just learn more about the characters, which is cool. This is for Haru, who's like the newest hero in the game, and so you kind of have to clear this within a limited amount of time. But I think what's going to happen is once this 12 days goes away, you can just buy a key right here, and then you can use that to do Haru's thing or pass the ones that maybe you've missed. So I think that's a nice little unique thing to add to the game where you get the lore and the background of these heroes, especially because the game is focused on the trauma of each of these characters. And so learning more about where they're coming from is a good little plus to just the main storyline. And now the last thing I want to touch on, I could probably talk on about like 10 different things, but the last thing I want to touch on is just the gameplay itself. The gameplay, the in-game content is just pretty fun. You know, this is the Chaos Manifestation and the Zero system is really the big things that you're going to be doing in this game. And what I like about the Zero system is you have different things you can kind of aim for. You have all these achievements, which give you rewards. You have different ways to upgrade, which gives different buffs and different kind of just upgrades during your runs, which over time is supposed to kind of like build up and be more beneficial and help you do harder runs, which I think is a cool system. And then lastly, you have this like in-game battle pass for free where you can get all these free resources just by playing the game, by unlocking more of these little eyeball things and then just doing more things. You know, these aren't like insane resources, but you do get some good things here. You know, if you're really wanting to collect more of the holographic cards for certain heroes, you get that. And then you just kind of get generic resources, some more currencies, stuff like that. And so I think having this as just a free thing is really nice. I can't honestly complain too much about this so far. I've only done 2 runs, but I've really enjoyed it. But I think just like taking the gameplay of this card style, kind of delving type game is just really fun. It's different than other anime games. It's different than, you know, other mobile games. I think it's pretty fun. It's just like a knockoff of Slay the Spire, but they do a really good job of kind of mixing Slay the Spire with, you know, the waifu anime gacha game. Now, as far as areas that I think could be improved upon, or I'm kind of just like holding my breath seeing how this works out, is the partner system. I just don't like when you have to pull on 2 separate banners using the same currency for different parts of the game, because honestly, people are gonna want the, you know, agents, the main characters, the combatants, whatever you want to call them, over the partners. The partners do have some really cool designs. I'm personally not a big fan of like these crazy ones, but you know, I like designs like Kira, Janet, stuff like that, like more subtle ones that are kind of cool. But anyway, I think the partner system is a little weird where you basically, I've been playing it for a week now and I don't have a single one of these. And the only one I'm probably going to get is from buying the battle pass once I hit level 30. And so I feel like this could be something where you're going to be not as strong, not as, you know, competitive, which it's not a PvP game, but it's just gonna be harder to progress without having some of these partners. And what's interesting about these high level partners is they are basically 1-in-1 paired with certain combatants. So if you look at this one, this is what I would consider Rinoa's paired partner, because she has an ability that gives you crit chance with cards costing 1 or less. That's basically Rinoa's bread and butter, those 1-cost bullets. And then when a assigned combatant uses 5 bullet cards, generate a random handgun bullet. And you know, it just, her whole thing revolves around the bullets, the 1-cost cards, and so it just makes sense that Janet would be probably the best one for her. And you can do this with a few others. There's a few other heroes that are just like 1-in-1. They just really make sense to be paired with certain specific combatants. So I think if you don't have those, it's going to be a little harder to push late game potentially. I don't know yet. Obviously, I'm not late game, but I could see this. I'm not saying this is a horrible system, but I could see this being something that could be a little annoying or tricky as you're trying to progress late game. Overall, the partner system I think is fine. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I just kind of think it's just kind of there. I'm not like, man, I really need to collect more Alysas or Daisies or whatever. I just kind of feel like, okay, they kind of come in, I level them up for different missions that I need to do, and that's about it. I don't feel strongly either way, but I can see this being a potential problem in the future. So the next thing I want to talk about is the auto battles function in this game. Honestly, it's pretty bad. I don't expect to really auto battle through like difficult parts or anything, but there are times when I will see the computer just do really questionable things. There was one time I was watching and I was like 1 turn away from basically hitting the 3-star mark on a mission. And to be honest, this isn't a big deal because I could literally just turn this off and then do it myself. But I saw the computer do like a passive healing card instead of an attack card when it could have just basically ended the battle. and so it just prolonged the battle longer because it healed itself instead of attacking. I've seen weird things like this where, I'll do like a deck search where you play a card and you search your deck and you can pick anything, and it just picks the most like it'll pick like a basic attack card instead of like an actual like valuable card. So if you're looking to have a game where like autoing is the main like function of the game, where you're not really wanting to intend on, clearing things and attacking things, this is not really the game for you, to be honest. There's not really a lot of valuable auto functions in this game. I think early on you can clear stuff with auto, but as you kind of progress, it just becomes less and less valuable. Also, there's just not a lot of parts of the game where you can auto. And Chaos and other like parts that take a long time to clear, you can't auto. So there's no point in having that. So I think the auto function is not really necessary. So I don't think it's really that big of a deal that it's not very good, but it is kind of crummy. The auto, it's like laughable how bad it is, but I don't really dock it as like a major flaw to the game just because it's not really a big component of the game in itself. So the next thing that this is probably my biggest complaint at this point, like in the current moment, and that is with the memory fragment system. So whenever you want to farm gear for your characters, you have to go in here and you basically just have to do one run at a time, and you get these different chances of loot. Like other systems, you can up the difficulty as you kind of clear the game modes and level up your like general level or whatever. But I think what stinks about this mode is the RNG nature of the stats. That's just part of how a lot of these games work, which overall, like, okay, whatever, RNG stuff sucks, but there are ways to, specify different stats and whatnot on gear that you really like later on. But what I don't like is how much it costs. Like 60 of these to do one run just feels really bad, especially with how slow you regenerate your Aether. It just feels kind of crummy. I don't like that you don't regenerate more, and I don't like how much it costs. If it was like the typical 20, 20, 20, or even 30s per run, I think that would be a little better, but 60 feels rough. I know when I hit that one quest requirement where you need to complete, or you need to like do like 12 runs, I mean, that's like 720 Aether. Like that's a ton. And so that one took me a while, and it felt bad because I was doing like runs for really bad memory fragments. Like I couldn't even get the legendary ones yet. So I don't love that. I don't love the system. And that kind of ties into my next point, is just I feel like the regen rate for this is super slow. And then on top of that, your dailies don't really give you any like resources to regen your stuff. In other games, sometimes I love like once you do all of them, you get like a little refresh thing or something, but you don't really get anything from your dailies except for the currency and the XP stuff, which is fine. You don't get like a reset when you level up either. So there's just a lot of like, it's become a rare currency to get as you kind of progress in the game and as you're grinding. And you basically have two options. You either find ways to unlock these, or you have to spend your crystals to get more Aether, which is not ideal. I prefer not to spend that and just save it for future summons, but I just feel like the recharge rate for this is pretty bad. And so when you have things like the memory fragments, which are going to be a core part of the game as you progress, it feels bad. Like I could use all of this, which is like half a day, or I don't know, like half a day of just not playing. I could use all of it and it's 2 runs, and I could get pretty much nothing. I could get no legendaries, and that would suck. So that's probably my biggest complaint. I hope they change that a little bit, whether it's the recharge rate or the cost to do memory fragment runs. We'll see. That's the end of my video today, guys, though. Thank you for watching. I could probably add like 10 more things to the bonus positive column, and probably a few more small nitpicky things, whether it's like the friendship level being kind of ridiculous. Like this is 10, I'm at 10, and this goes all the way up to 40. I mean, the stat buffs are whatever, but like that's a lot. And so there's like nitpicky things like that I could complain about, but I honestly don't want to complain too much about this game because I love it. But those things that I mentioned before are things that I'm most worried about or cautious about. I think they'll probably be addressed eventually, or maybe they'll just be different events that make these things better. But those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe below. And as always, have a great rest of your day. Peace.